If you saw the title of this video, you're in for a treat. This is a very, very touchy subject for me, but I know I promised I talked about this. A lot of people wonder about Victoria, my first relationship ever. Happened way back in the day in 2015, and this is one of my best stories, and this story actually touched me. It stuck with me for a while. This was way back in the day when Google Plus was just getting started in 2013, the end of 2013 even. I tell everybody this is when I first started Google Plus, and I wasn't even looking for a relationship even, and I didn't even want a Google Plus account. I remember my friend told me about Google Plus and said it was the best thing ever, that teenagers use it, and that it's the Google version of Facebook, and it's so much easier to use than Facebook. And I remember not being into it at all. I watched him use it a couple times, and I was very confused about it. Like, why does Google Plus exist? But, so, I didn't want to use Google Plus. I was happy with the fact that, I was happy with only using YouTube, and back then I only had one channel, Tetris Slayer. Of course, now the channel is called Caleb X, but this was way back in the day when the channel was still called Tetris Slayer. And so, I was happy with only using YouTube, and all of a sudden, YouTube came out with this update where you had to make a Google Plus account in order to use the website, and so that kind of upset me. I didn't want to use Google Plus, but eventually I had to use it, so I made a Google Plus account, but I didn't use it. It was only for YouTube, and eventually I started missing out. I started using Google Plus more often, and for like the first couple of weeks, like I said, I was just focusing on posting on Google Plus, and I wasn't like looking for a girlfriend or anything. And then this was like for the first couple of weeks, and then one time, this was when my parents knew about Google Plus and that sort of stuff. They knew about it, and they knew that I was using it, and as long as I took off my last name so people wouldn't know that what my last name was, so I did. And my name was like Caleb C. So I remember how I was just minding my own business on Google Plus one day when all of a sudden this person, I misgendered them, I called them a he. I misgendered them. Now I know feminists are probably gonna get angry at me and it's like, you misgendered her and stuff like that. This was when I was younger and I didn't know what feminism was. So anyway, I thought it was a guy because it was a guy by the name of Pikachu liking all of my posts, and so I remember how I was excited because nobody had ever liked my posts and stuff, and all of a sudden the person private messages me. She sends me a Hangout. If you don't know what Hangouts are, Hangout is the Google version of instant messaging, Messenger, as you will. She texts me saying hi, and we start talking, and I find out that she's a girl, and her name is Victoria. So we start chatting, and she doesn't have a phone, or rather, she's not allowed to give her phone out. So she gives me her email, and we start chatting, and then I found out later that she plays Pokemon, and that she had Pokemon X. That was a new thing back then, Generation 6. She had Pokemon X, and I had Pokemon Y, so we were playing for a while, and we started battling each other, and I remember how we both had a race to see who'd catch Mewtwo first. And I spent like a half hour catching him, and I caught him in like an Ultra Ball. And I remember how she texted me later, literally screaming, saying, I caught Mewtwo in a fucking Pokeball. And that actually made me laugh. So, we battled, and she beat me. And I remember. Excuse me. Excuse me, I don't even know what time it is. I'm just stepping out my patio and recording this. I remember looking at her bio, and her bio says, I have a crush on somebody. Excuse me. So, as you can see, this is a touchy subject for me because I'm laughing like I'm going crazy. So I talked to her, and I'm like, do you have a crush on me? And she says, she replies back saying cat face. And I say, wow, I'm really blushing right now. And she says, me too. And I say, do you really have a crush on me? And she says, yes. And I say, I love you. And we, I guess, start dating for a while. And, so our relationship goes well for a while until finally January 4th. I had gotten in trouble, I guess, because I didn't do my chores, and the punishment was you didn't do your chores for 4 days. You don't get electronics for 4 days. Eventually, I got caught using my electronics, and my punishment got extended further and further until eventually, and I kept sneaking on to say hi to her, and our relationship kept getting stronger and stronger. I kept getting on the internet to see her, and our relationship kept getting stronger and stronger. And she and I would talk, and we would become best friends. I would cry if she was gone from me for like 5 minutes. I would cry over her. And eventually, we were dating for like a month, and we became pen pals, and she would get my mail, but every time would send something back to me, her mailman would claim to have lost it, and that upset me, because it was like spending so much time. And finally, eventually, she gives me her house number, and she calls me, and I call her, and I finally get to hear what she looks like, and she sounds really cute, and she's a really cute girl. And she's like a year younger than me. I was like really excited, so we made a promise to each other that we'd stay together forever until we're both 18, which is we're supposed to be together for 3 years. And so eventually, we were together around 3 months at this point. 3 months. That's the longest relationship I have ever had. Excuse me. I got in trouble for the final time, and I finally got my phone back. And at this point, she got angry at me because I kept saying that I don't remember what the circumstance was, but she got angry at me because I was grounded. I wasn't allowed to get on the computer. I get online, and I get this strongly worded email from her accusing me of cheating on her. And that hurt me. I would never cheat on her. She was my first. Why would I cheat on her? So I talked to her. She threatened she would break up with me in like 5 minutes, or something like that. I didn't reply to her in like 5 minutes. She'd break up with me. So we're dating, but she seems off. Something's different about her. And then finally, the next day, I contact her. We were talking for a while, and I tell her I love you, the way I always do. We're dating for 3.5 months at this point, almost 4. And guess what happens? She replies saying ... And when I ask her what's wrong, she breaks it off. after 3.5 months, my longest relationship of my entire life, she breaks it off because our relationship wasn't stable or as special as it was in January when we met. So she blocks me on every single piece of social media that we own, or that she's following me on, and so 6 months later, I track her down on a backup Google Plus account that I had, because this is when I'm like using Google Plus and when I first started like using that website. And so I track her down and she's like, "Who is this?" And I say, "This is Caleb, the guy you were dating back in January." She drops the biggest bomb of my life. She says, "Oh, so you were the Caleb the hacker was talking to." And I got so confused. And she explained to me how she was never dating me. That apparently some guy hacked her account. Or some girl, or whatever you want to call it. Hacked her account. And was dating me. And so that happened. And so she blocked me again, and that brings us to this point. Now, I don't think she actually hacked, I don't actually think she got hacked. I think she was just lying to me to get out of my relationship, but that story is just touchy, and that happened years ago, and since then it's been hard for me to keep a relationship for a while, so hope you enjoyed that little story that I promised to do for you guys. So, like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all next time. Bye.